we are going to talk about adding and subtracting rational numbers. We'll start with some basics with the integers. So when the numbers, one is negative and one is positive, you can subtract them. So I can go 21 minus 13, which is going to give me 8. But the bigger number is negative, so it's going to be negative 8 because I owe 21 and I add 13, so I pay off 13. I still owe $8 on that one. So that's what that's looking at. Like, now the parentheses are really just because of the negative in these, so you don't necessarily have to worry about those. Please feel free to use your calculator and check them. I would like you to try to do some of these in your head on paper, but please check them all in your calculator. And then you can check them with the answer bank. Same idea here. Here I owe and I owe, so I can just add the two numbers together. So 10.7 plus 3.5, which is going to give me 14.2. But because I owed and I owed, I owe 14.2. So it's negative and negative. So it still stays negative when you're adding and subtracting. Okay, again, please use your calculator. Some calculators do have parentheses. You're welcome to put that in there if you would like and use those parentheses. Okay, fractions. Again, hopefully you have a calculator with fraction buttons. We do have some great ones at school that you can use. If not, some of these, like denominators, you should be able to do without a calculator. In adding unlike denominators could be, I'll show you and give you a quick reminder of how to do it, but I know you could do them. So like denominators, so the bottom's 11. Because it's negative and negative, we're going to go 6 plus 5, which is 11. But negative and negative makes it negative 11. I owe 6, I owe 5. So it's negative 11 over 11. Simplify that, becomes negative 1. And there's your answer for that one. Next, and this is probably a good refresher, you need to change these both to improper. Make sure that you can't have a mixed number here. So 3 times 1, or 3 times 1 is 3, and then plus 2, so that's 5. So this is negative 5/3. The negative just comes along for the ride, plus negative 1/6. Well, because we would like them, they need to be, in order to add and subtract, they have to be like denominators. So this one needs to be 6. So if I multiply these by 2, I get negative 10 over 6. And I'm going to add negative 1 over 6. So now we have like denominators. So I get 6. So I've got negative 11 over 6. And then I can make that a mixed number because that's what we started with here. So negative 1 and 5/6. And please check these in your calculator. If they are in fraction form, you should leave them in fraction form. If they're in decimal form, you should leave your answer in decimal form. We will talk about knowing how to work your calculators to get back and forth with that. All right, subtracting rational numbers, same idea here. You're really looking at these as far as it's negative 21. So if I think about my number line and I'm at negative 21, if I subtract 13, I'm going to go left 13. So I'm going to still be negative, and that's going to be 34. Or you have negative 21 and negative 13, you put them together, you get negative 34. There's a couple different ways to look at it. Don't forget, when you subtract a negative, that makes both of these positives. When you're subtracting a negative, they don't get along very well. They both turn into positives. So this becomes negative 15. You do not have to rewrite it, plus 14, but you can if that's helpful. Okay, same thing with decimals. I'm not going to go through all of these. Also, same thing with fractions. So you do have an answer bank. You can check everything and use your calculator. Again, fractions leave in fraction form at the end. Decimal leave in decimal form at the end. Your calculators, most of those will convert. And we'll talk about that the first couple days of school. All right. What I think is most important here is talking about like real life problems. So we see rational numbers frequently in life, okay? When you're, let's say, baking, you use half cups, 3/4 cups. You see fractions. When you deal with money, you see decimals all the time. So as we work through our word problems that we're going to get to, you will notice that there's some different words in there that you have to know if it's going to be a positive or a negative. So feel free to write some down now while you're thinking about it, but I will start going over some positives. So if you have a credit, that's a positive. If you receive money, that's a positive, or receives. If you deposit money into your bank, that's a positive. Revenue is making money. That's a positive. So when you get a job, you have what we call income or salary. The difference is salary, it's a set amount that you always get paid no matter how many hours you work. But income is you work by the hour. You have profit. When you have a business, the money that you make is profit. And we also have a thing called gain. Gain isn't like, there was one in, I think there was a problem we've had a couple years ago on football or something where they like gain 5 yards. That's a positive. Negative, big one, owe, and I use this a lot when you owe money. Debt, when you're in debt, you still owe money. Okay. Decrease. Increase can be on the positive side. I kind of assumed you guys know that one. Deficit means negative. A loss, like a loss of yards if you're talking about sports. Loan. And deduct or deduction. Those are all negative. It's not the only ones, but those are the main ones that we'll talk about and we'll use. Okay, so think through, to solve these, you have to think through the situation. Then you're going to follow the rules for adding and subtracting rational numbers. You don't have to, but you can draw a number line or a model if that does help. Some people, they need the visuals. I'm a very visual learner. They need visuals to help them. Okay, so we'll do one problem together here. We'll do this one. Okay, during a drought, the local lake was 2 1/4 feet below normal levels. 2 weeks later, that's important. 2 weeks later, the water had dropped an additional 1 3/8 feet. How far below the normal level was the water after 2 weeks? So we're looking for the water level after the 2 weeks. Yes, you have to fill this in. Okay, so that's what we need to know. That's what we're looking for. What do we know? We know that it started at 2¼ feet. And then it dropped 1 3/8 feet. You'll notice I circle and underline important things in my problem. That just helps it stand out when I'm looking to work through this. All right, so I'm not gonna lie. I already did this problem once and I did it wrong because I wasn't paying attention. So what I did wrong, and I caught myself, but not until the end, unfortunately, is, and you may have already seen this, it was 2¼ feet below normal. So this should be a negative. Okay, so it's negative 2¼ and then it's 1 3/8, but it dropped. So since it dropped, it would be a minus. Or we could write it as negative 2 1/4. And then we had it dropped. We can add them together. It dropped 1 3/8. These are exactly the same. We generally just don't put a plus and negative together. We'll talk more about that in class. So I'm going to go with the first one. We do need to change it into an improper fraction. And then we will need to work on like denominators in order to add and subtract. So we'll go 2 times 4, which is 8, and add the 1, which is 9. So negative 9/4. Sorry about that. Minus 8 times 1 plus 3, which is 11/8. Now we need to get them both in the same. So since this is already an 1/8, and all I have to do is multiply by 2 on this one, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go 18/8. So that's negative 18/8 minus 11/8. Okay. So since they're in eighths, 8 on the bottom, so it's negative 18 minus 11. We're really essentially just working through this top. So we're going negative 18 minus 11. So if I owe 18 and then I owe 11, so that's 10, 20, and then 9. So it's negative 29. Now, because we are working on a word problem, and in real life, we don't say I have negative 29/8 of a foot, we will be converting this back to a mixed number. So 8 goes into 29 3 times. Okay, the negative stays out front. And then 8 times 3 is 24. So now we got 29 minus 24, which is 5. So that I have 5/8 left. Okay, so it's negative 3 5/8 feet below. Okay, but we don't need below because we have the negative. All right, that would be adding and subtracting. You have a couple of pages of practice on those. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions.